The rain had barely stopped when Jung Hae-in stepped out of his van and into the light of a dozen cameras. Reporters were already waiting, voices rising above the hum of the city, asking the question that had followed him for days. Have you seen Jung So-min's post with Choi Woo-shik? He smiled politely, adjusted his coat, and kept walking. It was the kind of smile that hides as much as it reveals, calm, practiced, but edged with something fragile. The air and Seoul still carried the echo of the scandal. Jung So-min's photo with Choi Woo-shik had gone viral overnight, setting off a frenzy of speculation. And the public naturally turned their gaze toward the one man who had once been closest to her. Jung Hae-in, the actor whose quiet charm had defined some of K-drama's most beloved love stories, now found himself pulled into one that wasn't scripted. In the first few days he said nothing. The agency declined interviews, and he avoided social media altogether. But silence, in the digital age, only amplifies curiosity. Fans revisited clips of Something in the Rain, the drama that had made Jung Hae-in and Jung So-min a rumored off-screen couple. They replayed every glance, every gentle laugh, every moment that once seemed ordinary but now felt charged with hidden meaning. Look at the way he looks at her, a fan wrote on Twitter. You can't fake that. When Jung Hae-in finally appeared on camera again, it was for a magazine interview scheduled long before the uproar. The reporter hesitated before asking the question everyone wanted answered. How are you and So-min these days? He looked down briefly, smiled, then replied in a measured tone. So-min and I share good memories. We were friends then, and I believe we still are. It was a short answer, but the internet dissected every word. Was it closure? Was it regret? His fans flooded comment sections with sympathy, while others praised his grace. One popular post read, "He didn't dodge the question. He just chose kindness." Behind the scenes, colleagues described him as composed yet unusually quiet. On set, between takes, he would stand near the window, watching the rain slide down the glass, lost in thought. He's the kind of person who feels deeply but doesn't show it, said a crew member from his latest film. When he smiled during that interview, his eyes told another story. This story followed him everywhere. At fan events, the first questions were no longer about his new projects but about her, the woman who had once been his rumored partner and was now standing beside someone else. And still, Jung Hae-in never spoke ill, never avoided her name. She's a wonderful person, he said at one point. If she's happy, that's enough. That single sentence softened the storm. Revealed a man unshaken by jealousy or pride, only touched by the ache of what might have been. Even entertainment commentators, usually merciless in their speculation, admitted that his calm response carried more power than any denial could. He handled it with dignity. One columnist wrote, "It's rare in this industry to see genuine grace under scrutiny." Yet the cameras kept searching for cracks in his composure. Every glance, every gesture became a headline. Jung Hae-in's sad smile. That spoke volumes. Fans posted slow-motion clips of him bowing at press events, whispering that his silence was heartbreak in disguise. But those who knew him best said otherwise. He isn't sad, an old friend confided. He's just thoughtful. He accepts that people change, that love seasons, moves on. As evening settled over the Han River, Jung Hae-in's car pulled up to his favorite cafe. No reporters followed him there. It was a quiet corner of the city where he could breathe. He ordered an Americano, sat by the window, scrolled through his phone. On the screen, a familiar image appeared, Jung So-min and Choi Woo-shik laughing beneath soft lights. He looked at it for a moment, then turned the phone face down. His reflection in the glass was calm, almost peaceful. Somewhere beyond the glass, life went on, hers, his, everyone's. That night, he wrote a short line in his notes app. Words that would never be posted. Sometimes, loving someone means cheering from afar. Outside, the city lights blurred into streaks of gold as rain began again, tapping against the glass like a quiet applause. Jung Hae-in lifted his cup, took a sip, and smiled, the same smile the world had seen so many times. But this time it was different. It wasn't for the cameras. It was for himself, a silent acknowledgement that even in letting go, there can be peace. And somewhere in the distance, beneath the endless hum of Seoul, a story that once burned bright settled gently into memory. Only the warmth of what once was. The city had calmed, but curiosity hadn't. Weeks had passed since Jung Hae-in's quiet acknowledgement of his past with Jung So-min. Yet his every public move still drew attention. Arrived at film premieres. Smiled for the cameras. It is fans, but the world saw more than a polite smile. They saw a man carrying something unspoken. Every photo, every clip, seemed to ask the same silent question: had he truly moved on? When Jung Hae-in appeared on a late-night talk show, it was meant to be about his upcoming film. Yet midway through, the host's tone softened. How in SSI? He asked carefully. Many fans have been wondering, how do you feel seeing So-min these days? Especially with all the attention surrounding her, the studio fell quiet. Even the air felt like it was holding its breath. Ha-in leaned back, considered the question, and said, I think everyone deserves to be happy. Especially those who've brought happiness to others. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for someone is let them shine. If it's not beside you. The audience broke into gentle applause. It wasn't a headline-grabbing quote, no bitterness. Regret, but it was honest. In that single moment, he shifted the narrative. Been painted as a love triangle became something more human, a story about acceptance, growth, and quiet grace. Next morning, the clip went viral. The hashtag Jung Hae-in speaks from the heart trended worldwide. Fans called him the definition of maturity. Others shared screenshots of his expression, that small, wistful smile that carried both peace and melancholy. Comments summed up the sentiment perfectly. He didn't lose love, he found peace. As attention swelled again, Jung Hae-in stayed out of sight. He spent more time on set, working late, losing himself in the rhythm of acting. His colleagues said he had become even more focused, more grounded. Between takes, he was often seen reading, sketching, or simply staring at the horizon. When asked in a magazine interview how he managed to stay so composed, he replied, I try to remember that emotions aren't meant to be controlled, they're meant to be understood. That line struck a chord with thousands. People called it the most Jung Hae-in thing ever said. Fans began writing open letters online, thanking him for showing that vulnerability could exist without weakness. Others shared how his words had helped them through heartbreak of their own. For a moment, this story stopped being about a rumored romance, it became about healing. Behind the media noise, and kept his private routine simple. Early morning runs by the Han River, coffee with his manager, calls with his parents. A quiet life that stood in contrast to the headlines written about him. He doesn't chase the spotlight. Close friend told Star Daily. He lets it find him when he's ready. Then came an unexpected reunion, at an awards ceremony months later. Young So-min and Choi Woo-shik were both present, seated a few rows away from Jung Hae-in. Cameras were ready for drama, hoping for tension. So-min walked onto the stage to present an award. Jung Hae-in stood and clapped first. It wasn't forced. It wasn't for show. It was genuine. Applause echoed through the hall. And in that small gesture, the lingering rumor faded. Later that evening, during a brief backstage encounter, witnesses said the two exchanged a few words and a smile. No dramatics. No awkwardness, just quiet familiarity. It felt like closure. One journalist noted. Kind of closure that doesn't need to be explained. Exclusive interview afterward. Jung Hae-in reflected on the evening. Sometimes, you meet people who change you forever, not because they stay, but because they teach you how to love better. Min was one of those people for me. His words rippled across social media again, but this time, the tone was different. There was no gossip, only admiration. People began to view his story not as a sad ending but as a portrait of grace. As winter gave way to spring, Hae-in's new film premiered. It was a story about two people drifting apart and finding peace in their separation, art mirroring life. In the film's press conference, when asked how he connected with the character, he smiled faintly and said, we all carry memories that used to hurt but now make us smile. That's what healing looks like. Reporters called it poetic, fans called it profound. But to Jung Hae-in, it was simply the truth. In the weeks that followed, he began to notice something else. Young So-min had liked one of his promotional posts. One made a big deal of it, no breaking headlines this time, but for those who had followed their story from the beginning, it was enough. A silent nod. An acknowledgement of shared history without regret. Seoul moved through another season. The frenzy that once defined their names finally faded into memory. Jung Hae-in continued to work, to live quietly. Yet every time he spoke about life or love, Still heard echoes of a story that had once captured millions, a story of kindness, acceptance, and the quiet courage of letting go. Final interview of the year. Jung Hae-in was asked if he still believed in love. He paused, smiled softly, and said, "Of course I do. Love doesn't disappear just because it changes. Sometimes it just becomes peace, and that's enough." Outside the studio, the city lights shimmered over the river, just as they had months before. The world kept moving. But for those who remembered, the image remained, Jung Hae-in beneath the rain, smiling into silence, a man who had turned heartbreak into grace. And somewhere in the quiet between two lives moving forward, the story of Jung Hae-in and Jung So-min settled. As gossip or tragedy, but as something infinitely gentler, a reminder that even love that ends can still be beautiful.